Attention shoppers, please listen to the following announcements. Hello and welcome to Whatever Happened to the Shopping Mall. In this Mall Hall of Fame presentation, we will be exploring the various aspects of the American shopping mall, from its creation to its transformation into what it is now, today. Developed in the United States during the mid-20th century, the American mall concept was copied in cities around the globe. However, as the 20th century faded into memory, many were saying that the shopping mall as a retail institution was dead or dying. But was this gloom and doom denouncement entirely accurate? We will present a contradictory viewpoint and let you, the YouTube viewer, decide for yourselves. The mall, as we Americans came to know it, evolved from the retail arcade of the late 19th century. Arcades, while being fully enclosed, were not malls in the traditional sense. They were always built in downtown areas, while malls were initially a suburban phenomenon. Moreover, arcades did not have the large anchor department stores or gigantic parking lots, which came to be regarded as standard shopping mall features. The shopping center debuted in the years immediately following the First World War. One of the earliest was Market Square, in the northern hinterlands of Chicago. This new generation retail complex was designed to accommodate customers arriving by automobile. Another of these early car culture shopping complexes was Kansas City's Country Club Plaza. Washington's Connecticut Avenue Park and Shop was one of the first retail centers with an off-street parking area. Greater Dallas's Highland Park Shopping Village was innovative for its introverted design. Its stores faced a central parking area instead of onto city streets. Maryland's Greenbelt Center was the commercial and administrative hub of the U.S. government's Greenbelt Plan City. The complex opened onto a large, open-air shopping floor. San Diego's Linda Vista Plaza was a small, community-sized center. It advanced several design concepts that would be used in America's very first regional-sized shopping malls. Soon after the end of the Second World War, the American shopping center industry entered a period of great innovation. The concept of the small, auto-friendly retail complex, perfected in the 1920s and 30s, was expanded exponentially. A new breed of facility emerged, which incorporated large suburban department store branches and up to 800,000 square feet of selling space. The first of these regional complexes, the Broadway Crenshaw Center, was built in the western environs of Los Angeles. The complex was, basically, a strip-type complex with stores facing onto a rear parking area. The next step in shopping center evolution would locate store blocks across from one another, with an open, pedestrian-only concourse in between. These components would ultimately be surrounded by a large auto parking area. With this new concept, the American shopping mall was born. Park Forest Plaza in the southern hinterlands of Chicago was one of the first shopping centers to incorporate the pedestrian mall concept. The complex, whose first store opened in late 1949, would not have the large anchor-type department stores until the mid-1950s. Seattle's Northgate Center, dedicated in early 1950, was the first retail facility in the world to incorporate all of the components of a quote-unquote shopping mall. Northgate was anchored by a 200,000 square foot Bon Marché department store. Its tenants were arranged along a 500-foot Miracle Mall, with the complex being surrounded by a 5,000 car capacity parking lot. Large real estate developers and department store holding companies were initially slow in adapting to the new regional shopping center concept. This changed drastically in the mid-1950s after corporate tax shelters, such as accelerated depreciation and the Real Estate Investment Trust, or REIT, were instituted. America's early malls were not promoted as such. In the formative years, they would have been referred to as either a center, square, plaza, or shopping city. Paramus, New Jersey's BERGEN Mall was the first retail facility in the nation to be officially known as a quote-unquote mall. BERGEN Mall was originally open-air in format. So was Kansas City's Blue Ridge Mall. This would seem to debunk the notion held by some that a shopping center must be enclosed and climate-controlled in order to be considered a mall. Seattle's Northgate Center was America and the world's first regional-class open-air shopping mall. However, SOUTHDALE Center, outside of Minneapolis, was the first large-scale, fully enclosed, suburban-style retail facility in the cosmos. Following SOUTHDALE's lead, the enclosed mall was firmly established as the nation's preferred shopping venue by the mid-1960s. Promoted far and wide for their constant 72-degree perpetual springtime, enclosed malls were developed in large and medium-sized cities from coast to coast. Some of the more noteworthy early enclosed malls were Greater Baltimore's Herondale Mall, Greater Dallas's Big Town Mall, Phoenix's Christown Center, New Jersey's Cherry Hill Mall, Chicagoland's Randhurst Center, and Los Angeles' Topanga Plaza. By the early 1970s, America was experiencing a shopping mall building boom. Soon malls would even be developed in smaller metropolitan areas of the USA. Variations of the conventional shopping mall were developed during the 1980s. The outlet-type mall facility was introduced in Berks County, Pennsylvania in 1974. Reading Outlet Center, the nation's first outlet mall, was installed in an existing early 20th century vintage knitting mill. Today the complex is known as VF Outlet Center. The first purposely built complex, Burlington Manufacturers Outlet Center, opened in Burlington, North Carolina in 1981. Outlet malls were, more often than not, successful ventures. Several were built in America during the latter half of the 20th century. A derivative of the outlet mall was the Mills Mall, which combined off-price and factory outlet stores with various entertainment venues. The first, Potomac Mills, was built in Prince William County, Virginia, and was officially dedicated in 1985. Dubbed Shoppertainment, Mills malls were eventually developed in 15 U.S. cities. These included Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Sunrise, Florida, Ontario, California, and Nashville, Tennessee. Canada's West Edmonton Mall was the first of a series of megastructures that incorporated large indoor theme parks along with retail and entertainment venues. The complex was completed in 3 stages, with the final segment opening in 1999. Eventually encompassing over 5 million square feet and more than 800 tenants, the supersized center was the world's largest shopping mall between 1986 and 2004. An American counterpart was built on the outskirts of Minneapolis in the early 1990s. Mall of America famously spanned over 4 million square feet and would eventually contain 500 stores. Newly built retail square footage peaked in 1985 but began to slip soon after. Between 1989 and 1993, shopping center construction starts had dropped by a whopping 70%. By the mid-1990s, it was obvious that the mall or bust building boom had stalled out and been replaced by a shopping mall malaise. The reason for this decline of the mall in America has been attributed to the introduction of online retailing. However, there are other causes that are rarely, if ever, acknowledged. To begin with, there were simply too many malls built in the United States during the building boom years of the 1970s and 80s. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out that a medium-sized city such as Toledo, Ohio, could only realistically support one large, fully enclosed shopping mall. 4 opened in the metropolitan area between 1969 and 1980, making it inevitable that some of these shopping complexes would eventually fail. Today, just one, Franklin Park Mall, remains in business. A few other reasons for the mall malaise might be mentioned. First off, there's been a precipitous drop in middle-class buying power since around 1973. The end result has been that a typical American does not have as much disposable income as they did during the early years of the nation's suburbanization and shopping mall development. With less discretionary income, John Q. Public could no longer afford to shop at the mall. Another interesting and relevant but unmentioned reason for the decline of the shopping mall involves the way malls used to be marketed to the buying public. Regional shopping centers were originally conceived as an everything-in-one-place place to shop. Malls of the 50s, 60s, and 70s had stores such as supermarkets, 5 and 10s, cafeterias, and pharmacies. These provided things that many people really needed. The shopping mall went through drastic changes in the mid-decade 1980s. There was a marked shift toward more upscale stores. The end result was the leases for 5 and 10s and supermarkets were terminated. The push was on to reinvent the mall as a collection of high-end luxury retailers. Soon malls were being derided as cathedrals of conspicuous consumption. In many cases, their concourses were lined with stores selling only non-essential discretionary items, such as expensive shoes, fashion apparel, and accessories. With a large portion of their former patronage now being ignored, many of America's shopping malls were in decline. Demolition crews ripping down once vibrant centers of commerce were seen more and more across the nation. Amongst all the commercial carnage, a new manifestation of retail was emerging. Known as the Lifestyle Center, it first appeared in 1987 under the auspices of Greater Memphis's Shops of Saddle Creek. The new and improved Lifestyle Center dispensed with most aspects of the old and rotten enclosed mall. The first to go was the heated and air-conditioned perpetual springtime concept that had been popularized during the 1960s. Lifestyle centers were open-air, always upscale, and touted as being more intimate. The huge shopping center in the middle of a sea of parking mall model from the mid-20th century was now obsolete, or so it was told. Although many of the new lifestyle centers were newly developed facilities, a few were redevelopments of failed enclosed malls. Case in point, Southern California's Bellaterra. The very first lifestyle centers had a small footprint of only around 138,000 leasable square feet and 30 tenant spaces. By the mid-2000s, complexes such as California's Bellaterra were encompassing nearly 800,000 and housing over 70 stores, restaurants, and entertainment venues. The lifestyle center was configured so that shoppers could, supposedly, park directly in front of a particular store. Heaven help it if one had to actually walk any distance while shopping. In the brave new millennium world, nobody had time to walk, peruse, or people watch, as they would have done years before. It was now all about rushing from store to store, buying whatever and hurrying off to some other appointment or obligation, all the while driving and texting on a smartphone. Due to its compact footprint and a lack of heated and cooled common area, the Lifestyle Center costs less to build and operate. It supposedly produced a higher sales per square foot figure than the traditional mall, although one wouldn't have been able to tell by the prices of the merchandise. In a nutshell, the quaint, elegant, old-timey downtown Lifestyle Center was in, with the perception being that the gargantuan, impersonal shopping mall was out. All the while, various new lifestyle-type properties poured on the pretense with fancy-sounding monikers such as Shops, Town Center, or Point. Along with all the hyperbole and hoopla surrounding the Lifestyle Center, one aspect seemed to be purposely ignored. Shoppers were out in the rain, or any other inclement weather, when going from store to store. Of course, at the obsolete enclosed mall, this was never the case. To demonstrate this Lifestyle Center disconnect of reality, we had a hunch and did several Google searches to try and locate even one photo of a snowed-in or rain-soaked Lifestyle Center. There were none to be found. With this said, we now move on to the next step in the evolution of the American retail industry. During the 1980s and 90s, another new concept in shopping emerged, which was known as the Power Center. The 280 Metro Center in the West Bay suburbs of San Francisco is officially recognized as the nation's first quote-unquote Power Center. The Power Center basically turned the mall concept inside out. Instead of store blocks being situated at the center of a large parking area, they now surrounded the parking area, which was in the middle of the complex. Like the Lifestyle Center, the Power Center was open air. The big difference between the two was that the Power Center was not filled with exclusive boutique-type shops and restaurants, but with large, big-box-type discount stores. Whereas the majority of Lifestyle Centers were entirely new structures, most of America's Power Centers were redevelopments of failed shopping malls. In a majority of cases, existing stores were rebuilt and incorporated with new construction. Like the Lifestyle Center shopper, the Power Center patron would drive directly to the front of each store. They would shop, get back in the car, and drive through parking lot of pandemonium to another store at the other end of a complex. Walking between these destinations, as one would do in a conventional mall, was not in keeping with the new millennium way of shopping. Moreover, with all of the cars that were coming, going, and trying to get gone, it was much safer to just drive the distance and hope to not have a fender bender in the process. As previously mentioned, since the mid-1990s, the general consensus has been that all shopping malls in America are on the way out. This factoid is often repeated by the news media, who apparently no longer do objective and investigative journalism, but just repeat in verbatim what comes over the wire service. Many who share the all malls are dead and dying viewpoint add that online shopping will completely do in the brick-and-mortar mall. However, those sharing this opinion may be ignoring a few important points. First off, buying certain things online, such as DVDs, music, or electronics, can work out okay. However, one cannot try on clothing, shoes, etc., and can end up sending an item back a time or two before finally getting the right one. Secondly, shoppers, especially fashionista-type ladies, love the experience of shopping in an actual store, of being able to see, touch, and feel merchandise. This is something that simply does not transfer over in online purchasing. In summation, we pose this question. If all malls are dead or dying, why are so many retail real estate corporations doing multi-million-dollar renovations and expansions at their properties? Roosevelt Field, outside New York City, has just had a $200 million upgrade. Del Amo Fashion Center in Greater Los Angeles has recently completed its own $200 million makeover. Moreover, Westfield Valley Fair in San Jose is currently being renovated to the tune of $600 million. Lastly, Honolulu's MOANA Center recently dedicated its $573 million expansion and refurbishment. These are just 4 examples of our nation's many thriving destination-type malls. Of course, not every single mall out there is on solid ground. Many of the lesser grade B and C ones may eventually go under, if they haven't already. We must also factor in the potential demise of the once mighty Sears empire. When and if it falls, it could take out malls who are already operating on life support. However, only one of the 4 destination-type malls mentioned still has a Sears as an anchor, the Ala Moana Mall having just redeveloped theirs. So, from the looks of things, the high-end destination-type mall is here to stay. As Mark Twain stated in 1897, the report of my death was an exaggeration. We here at the Mall Hall of Fame express a profuse thank you for watching this documentary on malls.